This is Dion Blumenrader with Big Hoss One Sauce, and you're listening to the best show on all things barbecue with my man, Greg Rempe.
Start the game! Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh, should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Good evening and welcome to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show. It is a show that talks about all things important to the world of barbecue and grilling, originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city of Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I'm your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evening. Oh yeah, we're ready. So ready. If you want to jump in on the show tonight, more than happy to have you. It's a phone call, it's an email, and here's that contact info should you want to jump in tonight.
You can get in touch with the show by calling 216-220-0966. Email Greg at the BBQCentralShow.com. On the Twitter and Instagrams at BBQ Central Show.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening. Coming up in about 12 minutes from now, he is a second-timer to the show, made his debut appearance only a handful of weeks ago with his co-host from the Pitmasters Podcast, that is being Anthony Lujan. Joining me to this evening, though, is none other than the other co-host, Rusty Monson. That's right, we're back. Back and better than ever. Salt City Barbecue. We're going to be talking to him about nabbing his first grand championship of his competition career. We'll talk about the weekend. We'll talk about how many teams were there. There's a whole bunch of different things that we're going to be talking about here. So very excited to catch up with Rusty 14 past. Then we'll move to 35 past the hour. Derrick Riches from DerrickRiches.com joins me in his fourth Tuesday set, so looking forward to that. And then we will move to the second hour where, of course, since it is the fourth Tuesday, we will be joined by what I have termed the malfeasance of the barbecue community, that, of course, being the embedded correspondents. Yes, sir. So we have plenty to get to this evening. That, of course, takes up the second hour. As many of you are probably wondering, will there be any singing tonight because the embedded correspondents are on? And the answer is no, there is no singing tonight, nor in the near future, if I'm being completely honest at this point. While I'm not saying that there isn't going to be a season 2 of whatever the hell we would call the next singing effort of the Barbecue Central show, I don't know when that is exactly going to be. There might be some guest singers / contestants. I think Robin Lindars might have offered herself up. I think there have been some other people that might have said. Rusty, I think, might have mentioned that the last time he was on, he thought about singing, or perhaps when I was a guest on his, but something came up. Maybe it was Anthony, maybe it was both. They were going to duet like Brooks and Dunn, or name your favorite duet. I don't know. But plenty of high-level talent could be coming in for season number 2. That's how it always works, right? I mean, season 1 is the rollout. We file off all the sharp edges, and then everybody wants a piece of what's cool. And there's nothing cooler than Barbecue Central version of The Voice or American Idol or whatever it is. So looking forward to that. All right, first off, if you're not following me socially, do that at BBQ Central Show, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, / BBQ Central Show on Facebook. There's also a video feed there if you want to take a look at that. And for the competition, folks, this year continues to blow. Memphis in May was officially canceled earlier last week, and today, if it came down, if you didn't see it, the Jack Daniels was also waxed.
Get that big stuff out of here.
I'm no detective or expert in anything, But I would have to say that the American Royal is in real bad shape right now. I mean, they can't possibly have it at this point, right? Memphis in May postponed, then they canceled. There's a billion people that go to Memphis in May between the contestants and the folks that just show up there to hang out. The Jack Daniels doesn't probably see near the traffic that Memphis in May sees, and then they cancel today. And the thing that the American Royal is most known for, aside from giving the opportunity of anybody that's won anything during the course of the year to compete the best against the best in the American Royal Invitation side, well, the next day is the Open, and there's been times when there's been damn near 600 teams. Can they have that? I don't know. I think it is on the thinnest ice possible. And of course, because it's all about me all the time when it comes to this show, this would have been the perfect year for me to go into the Hall of Fame, of course, because as I anticipate that the American Royal also will be canceled, I wouldn't have had to travel at all. I could have taken my Hall of Fame, stayed in Cleveland, made some pre-recorded thank you, not had to travel to Kansas City. But no, it didn't work out for me. I wasn't even on the short list, but nevertheless, that would have been the most keen time would be this year because no travel due to coronavirus. And again, I'm not saying that the American Royal has been canceled. It has not been canceled. But a large part of me has to, but I'm going to ask the embedded correspondents, perhaps some other guests here during the next 2 hours, on their thoughts of if the Jack and Memphis are out, the American Royal has to be on very thin ice. We'll see how it goes. Email from a listener. Greg, I was listening to talk about how you weren't able to go to Barbecue U this past weekend because of very little notice given by Steven Reichland. By the way, it was in South Carolina and not California. Anyway, during your tirade, you mentioned Rule 3 of the show. What is that? Keep up the good work, Tim. Tim, thank you for writing in. Was it a tirade? It was a very mild takedown. Very mild, by the way. Nothing like I did in regards to Meathead and that dissertation. That was a takedown, if you want to, or tirade, if you want to juxtapose the correct English here. But to answer your question, what's rule number 3? Tim, are you new to the show? Let me hip you to the fact that there are rules to the show, and in particular order. Rule number 1 of the show: no names, please. That's rule number 1. It's been a standing rule forever. We don't mention names on the show. I mean, we talk about being courageous, but we are not courageous. No names, please. If you're going to say a name, instead say, and I'm not going to, no names, please, but they burnt their brisket. We don't name people. No names, please. Rule number 2 of the show. There's not that many, don't worry. Don't get hooked, of course. Don't let some troll on the social medias pull you into some conversation or bait you into reacting. That's what don't get hooked means, so don't bother with any. We don't get hooked on this show. Nobody draws us in. We draw people in. We don't get drawn in. Rule number 3 of the show, this is point right here. If it's free, it's me. That's rule number 3 of the show. That might be my favorite rule. I got free pizza dough over the course of the week. I got free Crisby products. A lot of free. Rule number 3 was me all this past week. I love it. Rule number 4 of the show. Now we're getting into the newer rules. If the meat is good, something good is going to happen. It's rule number 4 of the show. And rounding out all of the current Barbecue Central show rules, number 5, as made famous by my imitation of my mom, which is actually coming from me, don't snappy snap on the Snapchat. That's right. No snappy snapping on the. So, Tim, those are your rules of the show. Also, I have another listener email. Dear Greg, have you heard about a charcoal shortage in the Chicago area? My local Ace Hardware completely wiped out of charcoal. Home Depot was pretty slim pickings, too. I just grabbed a couple bags of Kingsford long burning because it was all they had. Long burning. Wow. I didn't know there was a long burning charcoal. Anyway, just wondering if you had heard anything from your industry connections. He put it in quotes, so I'm airing it for you. Might be worth mentioning on the show. Happy grilling, Kevin. All right, Kevin. Well, as I will have you know, I asked some of my industry experts who, namely Derrick Riches, will be coming up at 35 past the hour, and we'll be talking about if there isn't a charcoal shortage. So stay tuned for that. In my personal experience here in Cleveland, I can tell you that I was at my Ace a number of times over the weekend and the last few days. I've been through both Lowe's and Home Depot, and there have been zero issues with stock and supply as it relates to lump charcoal and briquette charcoal and pellets or anything like that. Solid supplies. There were sales on Kingsford over the course of the week, maybe because it was Father's Day. So at least in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city, and I'm not going to speak from anybody else, and Derrick is going to give us a high-level insight from the industry's point of view, from his contacts. No shortage here in Cleveland. So make the 5.5-hour trip east. Come to Cleveland, get your charcoal, go back to Chicago. Love Chicago. All right, hey, brand new sponsor here for the next couple months, World Food Championships. Anybody need that? Of course, we all need a little World Food Championships. Some of my food sport friends from the World Food Championships have partnered with Walmart to launch a Walmart Cooking Challenge Party. That's right. They're challenging foodies to a fun contest where 40 people, not 14, 40 people across the country can win $250 Walmart gift cards. You know how many racks of ribs $250 can buy? 4 talented Walmart chefs have created delicious, customizable recipe videos for inspiration. The tutorials even allow you to make substitutions while cooking with them virtually. That's what it's all about right now. Check out the contest rules and how to enter at this particular address, walmart.com/cooking challenge. That's all one word, walmart.com/cooking challenge. The contest ends at 11:59 p.m. Eastern, July 31st. So we are about a month plus a week before that ends. So if you're down for $250, or at least a chance to win $250, head on over to walmart.com/cooking challenge and then put those recipes to the test virtually. You're seeing it happen a lot now, right? Virtual contests, virtual judgings. This is fun stuff. This is what it's all about. Keeping it together, pushing the envelope in the times that we're at. Walmart.com/cooking challenge. And again, that's ending just shy of midnight, July 31st. What do you say we talk to Rusty Monson coming up out of the break about a big win this past weekend in the Utahs? Why not? Stick around. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting live from the BBQ Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Hey, this portion of the show being brought to you by Butcher Barbecue, makers of award-winning injections, marinades, rubs, and seasonings, barbecue sauces, and grilling oils. All of Butcher Barbecue products have been tested on the competition circuit, as well as backyards worldwide. Be the pitmaster of your neighborhood and visit butcherbbq.com to stock up now. Always trust your butcher. All right, my next guest made his debut on this show a few weeks back as he ventured out to one of the very first competitions to return amidst the coronavirus. Tonight, he returns as a first-time grand champion from this past weekend's event in Utah, which saw both an SCA event and a KCBS event contest at the same location. Here to recap the win, give us some perspective on how the teams and events were run, distanced, and or otherwise. The pitmaster of Salt City Barbecue Team and co-host of the Pitmasters Podcast, none other than Rusty Monson joining me. What's up, champ? I didn't have your audio on, Rusty. I'm sorry about that. How are you, pal?
That's okay. You got me now?
Yeah, first time running the show. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Tomorrow will be my next show. All right, so you were at the, and I apologize if I'm not going to say this right, the Traeger NorUT State Barbecue Championship. Is that right?
I don't know what it is. I don't even know what it is. I try and say it all the time, so I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, it was up in Ogden. Yeah, we have it every year, except for last year. It was a little bit. It wasn't as cool. It wasn't a KCBS last year, but yeah, it's one of the more popular ones here in Utah.
What was it last year?
We got a lot of teams out. It was the same thing, but
it wasn't.
We only had 8 teams show up last year.
Oh, okay. So they didn't bother getting sanctioning for that, but then you have 4 times the amount of teams show up a year later. There were 32 teams there.
Everyone's begging for it, man. We had people out of California, people out of Idaho, Wyoming, Arizona, you name it.
Yeah, notables there. Smoke Ain't No Joke, which happens to be your co-host, Anthony Lujan. Burnin' and Luton was there. Luton Booty was there. Sterling Smith. Backdraft Barbecue was there. One of the legends in competition barbecue. I don't know if you knew this or not, Rusty, because you're a little green here to the competition scene, but John Nilgis of Parrot Head Smokers, I think John has currently won 487,000 grand championships. So this was a pretty stacked field, wouldn't you say?
It was, man. You pull up and you see Parrot Head there, and a lot of my barbecue heroes like Christy Vanover from Girls Can Grill, and Jerry and Sterling, and gosh, man, I was scared to death pulling in there. I was like, let's just cook and see how it goes. But we're good friends with all those guys, and it's cool to hang out with them. So it's good to see them all because we don't get to see them very often, especially now. So
what I found interesting is that you had a nice run up to the contest via the latest podcast episode where you and Anthony basically lay out your entire process for leading up to a competition. Basically a week-long event. Yeah,
it's really hard. And this one was harder because I always do the ancillaries on basically anything because I can't help myself. And so I do, dessert, and we're doing steak, and we're doing KCBS and the 4 meats and get everything ready for it. We start Sunday night. We start, taking the barrels down, them up, and that's a process because there's 3 of them, and we cook on them all the time. So they're all greased up, and that takes a minute. So we get that going. Then we trim our meats early. Sometimes we trim them months before, but this time we didn't. So we'll take, and we don't want to go and have this huge like meat trimming party, So we like to break it up. So Monday we'll do chicken and pork, and then Tuesday we'll do brisket and ribs, and then Wednesday we're packing up everything, and Thursday we're cleaning everything and packing everything in and getting ready to go. So all we have to do is Friday morning walk out to the truck and just bounce. And so it's quite a process. So yeah, it's about a week long. And this one was every bit of a week long to get ready for it. It was just right up the road. So imagine if we had to go to Wyoming, which we often do, or Colorado, which we often do, or Arizona, which we often do. It's a little bit more than that. So yeah, man, if you want to get a pro barbecue, you're going to have to put some work in for sure.
Rusty Monson joining me here on the show, talking about the big win this past weekend in Utah. Do you think talking it out with Anthony in that last episode helped additionally, or you have a program, you work it didn't matter if you guys were talking about it or not?
It didn't matter if we talked about it because for me, we have it all dialed out. We have everything written down. So we have checklist days. We plan it out ahead of time. Like right now, we have a competition in August 15th in Kanab, Utah, which is going to be a fun one because I love that freaking city. If you've never been, you should go. And we're already planning out how we're going to spend that for the tweaks leading up to it. We're already planning on doing brisket now. And so we lay it all out, and then we just execute the plan. And then we do the same with competitions, man. When we're in there, we have dialed in to the minute. So we have a very similar program to getting ready for it. Like I said, we're getting ready already for a month and a half, 2 months from now. So yeah, it's it's how we do it. I know a lot of people don't do it like that, but it was cool to talk it out too, because, there's things you forget, but then I think it helps a lot because when I first started, we didn't do anything like that. And it felt like we were forgetting stuff and we were not ready, and not mentally ready. And that really hurts your competition. It's people think that, you can call this a sport or whatever you want to call it, but if you're not mentally prepared for it, you're not going to win a competition. It's a mental game. And so it helps talking it out, especially on the podcast. Since we haven't done it in so long, it was therapeutic in a way, just to kind of, walk through it and just, okay. And just get in that mindset. And that's what that podcast did for me anyway. Hopefully everyone out there learned something from it too, because I could really have used that podcast a couple years back. So
let's quickly recap the cook, Rusty. We don't need to get into the weeds on everything, but when you look at the overall results for you through category, pork was the worst at 10th, but you had a second place brisket, a second place ribs, a third place chicken. As you're turning those in individually, do you know that you are on the mark, or is it always anybody's guess?
Normally it's kind of doomsday-ish, and you taste something and you're adjusting and you worry about it. It's not what you think it should be. And, it's this whole thing. But that day, man, it was everything was tasting great. Everything was it was just a flawless cook. It felt really good. And, in the barbecue world, especially the competition world, that if it feels good, it's probably a bad omen.
Yeah.
And so you're really worried, like, oh crap, this feels way too good. We're going to take last place. But the food was coming out tender, coming out spot on. So, man, it was a good day. The steak cook-off wasn't it was more doom and gloomy, but we did well there too. But it was a really good day. It was really cool. We were totally chill, and if you walked by the camp, you'd see us just hanging out. It just felt good. So, and it worked out. So maybe that's what it was. It was just letting it go. I learned, if you're only there to beat yourself, and I heard that 1,000 times, but for the first time ever, it really just stuck in my brain. And this time, I think that helped my mental state. We're not here to beat Parrot Head. We're not here to beat Burnin' and Luton. We're here to beat ourselves. And so, for me, that was huge. And for the first time, I really let that sink in, and I think that's what did it.
705.7 wins Grand Championship. You're a full point plus over Burnin' and Luton, and 8 points ahead of Parrot Head Smokers, who took third. So you pretty much boat raced the field. My words, not yours. I assume after the brisket call, you had a pretty good feeling about potentially grand or at least another RGC. How did it feel to finally bust through?
Yeah, it was tight, man. It was down to the wire. We tied in chicken with Jerry, I think, and we were right there on ribs, and he got us on pork, and then we got him on brisket. And man, when they were calling that, you knew you were gonna be second or first. I mean, just how it played out. But to get first, and I mean, I don't want to hear my fourth RGC. That's it's great to take second out of a field like that, but you don't want to freaking take second. So we just it was a bunch of nerves. And Jesse, of course, the announcer, he liked to play it out a little bit, so made us wait a little bit. But it was awesome, man. It was cruel because it's not every day you beat out a legend, by a point. So I'll take that every single day.
So you're gonna retire now and go out on top? I mean, what else is there to prove,
Absolutely.
Right? Nothing left to prove.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm done. I've sold everything. This hat is the last thing I own. So it's the last thing of Salt City barbecue I own. Yeah, it's over, man.
Rusty, let's talk about this because we did mention this quite a bit when we talked about the steak cook-off that you guys did a couple weeks ago. Let's specifically talk about safety measures put in place here. So just tell us what the difference was about this event versus when you see it operating normally.
So I don't know if they do this in every state, but we have degrees of, green, yellow, orange, and red. Red being the worst, stay at your house, don't even look out the window. Don't think of trees, whatever. Don't do anything.
Don't think of trees.
And green is back to normal, and then yellow is where we were at in the city. So all that requires of us is to wear a mask and social distance. That's all it was. And so just like the other ones, the difference is that when you do the meeting, they encourage you to stay 6 feet apart. It's actually pretty decent because we were in a huge parking lot and everyone was pretty spread out. And then when you go to meat selection, you have to be wearing a mask the entire time and you have to be wearing gloves. So we did that both for the steak, SEA, to go pick up the steak. And we also had to have a gloved up, and we had to have a mask to walk to even grab our box to walk it to the judges table. So, and then, everyone's waists apart, and, we're far apart as it is, we're in tents, we're in, 20 by 20 spaces, the guy next to us is a lot further than 6 feet away. So, it's different, but it's not, just because it's kind of conducive to the setup we already have. Like I said, we're all pretty much spread apart, and if someone talks to you, you're basically, they have to talk over our barrels and they have to talk over our cooker or table or whatever. So, So I think it just kind of works out. It's not that different, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. It's just really not, except for you forget to take your mask when you're rocking your box and you have to run back for it. And that sucks.
All right, Rusty. So how are you feeling personally about the balance of the year for competitions? You think they're going to be few and far between, or what's your gut telling you as you talk to some of the other pitmasters this past weekend?
Well, everyone's pretty much assuming the worst, and the worst is happening. So just in today, as we all know, the Jack got canceled, and then we're part of the Rocky Mountain Barbecue Association, and they just canceled 2 events today. So we've got punched in the face, uppercutted, and then kicked in the gut. So, man, they're dropping like flies. Kanab's a guarantee, supposedly. We'll hope that sticks, but it might just be that. I think the Royals going to cancel. I agree with you. I don't think it's going to happen. I know they're trying their best, but in the KCBS Invitation, it's a really shitty year to start winning competitions, right?
I mean, it's a pretty shitty year all the way around, regardless of industry, sport, or whatever. No doubt about it. Something that we haven't seen before. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the steak event the night before. I don't know where you finished, and I don't even know if I care. But what I do want to talk about is this steak process that I saw on the Instagrams. Not that I pay incredible attention to what processes are these days, but you both tie the steak and toothpick the steak. I mean, did Gorilla Glue not want any piece of this? Did you leave the tack welder at home? I mean, what's going on with this piece of beef?
Yeah, like I said, man, we took the duct tape off. I thought that was a bit excessive. So we backed off the duct tape. But it's a trick I learned from John Lindsay. I watched one of his classes on Barbecue Champs, and it helped me a ton. But he pronged it. And I used to do that without tying it. And so he not only does that and ties it, but he does it so he doesn't have to, bow his steak up.
Is
and
pronging?
So for me,
let me interrupt just for a second. Is pronging the toothpick thing?
Yeah, putting the toothpicks in.
Okay.
Keep it. And so for me, it kind of keeps it together, but it also, when you're wrapping it with the string, it doesn't get too tight. So you go, do a little over under thing. But for me, I like to tie it back over where the spinalis is, so I don't forget where the spinalis is, because we sometimes do the round steak. And I know that's, round steak, but, or it looks similar. So it's, for me, where it's tied, I know where the spinalis is. Also, I tie it on top of the toothpick where my presentation side is, because I am not very Dewey Decimal about stuff. And I'm very like, oh shit, did I put on 10 or did I put on 2? So I know where that is. So it's my north and south as well. So, man, it's a multi-purpose trick. So I love it. It's all I do now.
Would you ever turn in a steak that didn't have grill marks?
Yeah, I would. You know what? I was thinking about that. It's a good time to start doing that. I think we need a revolution. I think we all need to start searing our steaks right now. And just as a group, we all need to agree, listen, half of us are just going to sear off our steaks today. And we're going to get that mindset. We're going to change that so that it's not weird when they see it, a seared steak.
Are you dismayed at all? I would. Are you dismayed at all that, I mean, what I loved about the steak contest when it began was there seemed to be no conformity, or there was no reason to. It was going to be steak, and the best cooked and best tasting steak would rule the day. Certainly there was an appearance score. But when I was I guess on your show, I had mentioned that you had done an interview with, I think her name was Terrell Miller, or whatever her name was, who's a rep and also a judge for World Food and SCA and KCBS. I mean, she's certainly entrenched and knows what she's doing. But within the minutes of the conversation that you had with her, she voluntarily said that she would score down a steak that didn't have grill marks. And as I was running in the morning, I was crying and running at the same time, because I was like, wow, like this is exactly, what I hate, is that there's an expectation now. And she did kind of broad stroke it across the judges' tent too, that, she thought that a lot of the judges felt similar to her, or that they want to see those. And I don't know what that brings to the table more than a well-seared steak from a crust. And as you said, maybe this is the time where you make that stand. But I would argue, of course, that much like in competition barbecue, nobody's venturing out of the flavor profile that's existed for the last 10 years because they know that's what wins. There's not nearly as much money expense-wise in a steak contest that there is as a barbecue contest, but everybody still wants to win and take a $250 entry fee if you're not doing the ancillaries and take back the $750 on the plus for that $1,000 payout. Do you think that would ever happen where you go back to a steak looking like a steak and you can just cook it however you want and it's going to win on its own merits versus not being penalized because it doesn't have grill marks right off the chop?
Who knows? We had cooks out there that I'm not even chopping off the tail, and we took 4th place out of 40 teams and we got 44 on our tenderness score or our doneness score. And that's a pretty big hit. And that's a big hit.
Yep.
So I wouldn't mind, just seeing how far you can get with one of your scores being lower. And if it's anything like KCBS, the appearance score is less points. So I wouldn't mind it at all. I would, in fact, for me, I think it would be kind of cool to see that, because right now it's so new. You never know. You might be people out there begging, judges just begging for it. Like, man, just give me a tail. Give me a seared steak. We don't even know because everyone just jumped on this train so quick, There was never a time where it was like, well, back in the day, we seared our steaks, It wasn't like that. And so it's all we know, So right now is a great time to do it. And you know what? Listen to me. I'm going to do it for you one of these days, one of these big comps.
Oh, yeah.
I'm in the running for
100 plus.
The Utah. I'm going to do it. I'm going to sear my steak. I'm going to see how it goes. I'm going to do it.
If you win with that steak, I will pay back your entry fee. How about that?
That's awesome.
Right.
That's even more motivation to do it.
All right, so let's switch it up just for a second. We got a couple minutes left. You had mentioned on your most recent show, as you were talking through the competition stuff, that you had a switch of opinion on backyard versus pro. Initially, you told folks just to jump right into the Pro Series. And look, I don't even know what the hell Pro Series means, to be honest. Any dope can get in as long as they pay a fee. But different discussion for a different day. Why do you see the value now in an individual or team using backyard events to hone their skills before making the jump up to the next level?
Because most, and I mean almost all, can't afford that right out the gate and to lose. You have to be really prepared to come in. You have to be like loaded in classes and practices and know just what you're doing right away. Or you're gonna throw away $1,000 a contest just to jump into the pros. And being pros is just signing up for a contest and paying whatever. That's all it means. So for me, I think the success for barbecue to continue to grow as far as competition goes is to really foster those backyard guys and really get their confidence up by, just doing the chicken, doing the ribs, paying a $50 buy-in fee or $50 to $100, and go and buying some chicken and some ribs and ease it into it, man. Get those chops and learn to cook brisket and pork on your own. And really dial in at least those 2 meats, because if you get a call or 2 in ribs, that's some money for you. That's $250, $300, depending. That's your entry fee right there in a pro. So, I just think we're beating them over the head. It's like going to pro and, pop. And so I think they need to ease in, man. I think it's too much and too soon, and people are just going to drop out if they're not going to be, you go in there and go, I'm going to win first place. I'm going to win all this. And when they don't, and they look at what they just spent, they're not going to do it, man. And we need to take it back, and we need to go to backyard, and we need to grow the sport again. We need to kind of go backwards.
Rusty, last question before I let you go, and appreciate the time. Name the worst barbecue podcast out there right now.
I would say the Pitmasters Podcast, man. Those guys are terrible.
No way. Those guys are up and comers.
Terrible.
They're gold, I'm telling you. Especially that Anthony Lujan. He's something else.
The Anthony Lujan.
Yeah,
the Anthony Lujan.
Much like the Ohio State University, which is not the first university in Ohio, by the way. That's Ohio University, my alma mater, founded 1804. Columbus can go, off the charts. Rusty Monson, Salt City Barbecue Pitmaster, taking down their first grand championship and joining me here on the show to recap it. Rusty, always appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Hey, appreciate it, Greg, man. Have a good one.
You got it. There he is, Rusty Monson. All right, Derrick Riches is coming up out of the break, and I will talk to you quickly about Big Poppa Smokers, the one-stop online shop for all things barbecue, a curated selection of only the best outdoor cooking and grilling items available online. Award-winning rubs and sauces, American-made grills and smokers. How about 13 perfectly balanced flavors of seasonings? Sweet Money, Cattle Prod, Cash Cow, Double Secret Steak Rub. My favorite, Little Louie's Seasoned Salt. Ooh, black pepper, seasoned salt, delish. How about a new barbecue sauce? Are you sick of what's out there? I mean, many of us are. Change it up a little bit. Try Granny's barbecue sauce. Big Papa's owns that as well. A powerful flavor that reminds us of why we fell in love with barbecue in the first place. Find Granny's barbecue sauce and other top-rated sauces at BigPapaSmokers.com. And then we talk about the cookers, of course. Are you looking for a versatile smoker that's easy to use? Check out the Mac 2-Star General Pellet Cooker. Big Poppa Smokers, the exclusive Mac dealer, even offering special packages. Not a fan of pellet smokers? All right, take a look at the Old Hickory Ace BP. It's the only charcoal smoker that Big Poppa trusts on his competition trailer. If you're not sure of what grill you need, I mean, can you really go wrong with anything they're offering over there? Not really. If you have any questions, you give them a shout and ask away. They will answer. 877-828-0727. That's 877-828-0727. Or again, shop their website at BigPapaSmokers.com. That's BigPapaSmokers.com. Derrick Riches from DerrickRiches.com coming up out of the break. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
This portion of the show is being brought to you by CookinPellets.com, your number one source for quality wood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers. Visit CookinPellets.com for more information or to purchase, or you can buy from Amazon.com as well. The fourth Tuesday of the month brings a regular visit from one of the most respected barbecue journalists in the biz, a Barbecue Central Show guest Hall of Famer, and you can check out his musings at DerrickRiches.com. We race to the hotline and welcome back none other than Derrick Riches. Hey, Derrick.
Hey, Greg. How you doing?
We are rocking and rolling here in Cleveland this evening. What's happening in Austin? I heard everything is wide open, and we are with reckless abandon down there.
It's not that reckless. No, it changes every day.
Yeah,
so
no doubt. What was your best Father's Day gift?
I'll let you know when I get it.
You didn't get it yet?
Well, my daughter's in Virginia, and
yeah, there's Amazon.
Kind of holding. Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Don't say you're waiting until you see each other. I mean, that could be 10 years from now.
I know. Yeah.
Plus, I mean, it's got to be hard. I mean, you're a guy like me. We're all into this live fire thing, and we have our hands maybe a little deeper and more entrenched than the average Joe and Jane. So we already have a lot of stuff. So, buying for us is probably a little bit more difficult. Unless you like to, you probably like to read and a little bit more of an academic than me. I'm kind of a dimwit. So my kids are more like, you probably like gadgets or it has something to do with live fire, and that's where they focus on. But maybe you're a little more well-rounded than me.
I doubt it. I seriously doubt that. My mother used to get me barbecue accessories for my birthday for years, and finally I had to tell her, please stop. I have boxes of stuff. Yeah,
I have 7 of those things that you sent me already.
Yeah. I have the prototype of this one.
Right.
It's like, okay. But, so, yeah.
Derrick Riches from DerrickRiches.com joining me here on the show. Bristle brush ban success. Have we eliminated it yet or not?
No, we haven't eliminated it yet.
Amazing. In 1 month's time, I thought for sure we were going to shake the very foundations of the bristle brush industry.
Well, I mean, I've had a lot of people in the industry say, yeah, this is a great idea. And if someone else would do it first, we might jump on board.
Wow.
It's going to be one of those. It's going to be that situation, or it's going to be a situation in which I imagine at some point in the future, there'll be a slow news day in the summer. I don't know when that will happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I dream of it, but that will become a big story, and then they'll all jump in and go, "Oh no, we've been planning this for a long time."
Somebody will make the jump over the line in the sand. I got a number of emails through the course of the month when we were talking about it last month saying that while there are documented issues, as you had mentioned, but the bristle brushes really aren't that bad. And when you look at how many people are going versus how many people have them and aren't experiencing, it's really not that big of a deal.
No, and that was always kind of my point, actually. It's not a huge deal, but it's one that's very easily eliminated.
It can be no deal.
Yeah, it could just be that. I mean, we just say, hey, you actually don't need to provide these as a product. There are so many great alternatives. Why don't you just put that in your product catalog instead of selling these incredibly cheap, badly built wire bristle brushes? And then you don't have to worry about, the news story or somebody coming up and going, hey, you know what? I'm a lawyer and we could have a class action lawsuit on this one. So to me, it's a no-brainer and it's a simple solution. But I've known this business for a very long time, and change is really hard for many people.
I was inspired, so I went and bought my dad a non-bristle grill brush for Father's Day. It was called Grill Rescue. Have you seen Grill Rescue?
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts about that? Do you have one?
I might have one.
Some real hunky fire guy made it up. I mean, he's sitting there with shirtless with his apron, steam cleaning his grill grates. I mean, I was like, hook, line, and sinker. Sign me up.
Yeah. No, it's hey, if it works, it works.
Yeah.
But and that's the other thing. It is like, since this became an issue a decade ago, there's so many people who've been inventing better ideas, and they just keep doing it. And it's like, well, let's just get rid of the other ones and go with all these better ideas.
You were talking about how you get all of the cool gadgets. Let's talk about Fireboard 2. I had Ted Conrad on. It was probably, it might have been the beginning of last month, right when it was kind of rolling. Well, I guess technically it was in pre-order at that point, and he was a handful of weeks away from actually launching them. They might have just launched, was it the 10th maybe or something along these lines? So anyway, they're freshly out, maybe just a week or so. Do you have one? And if you got one, thoughts as you have begun to play around on?
Yeah, I have one, and it's back
right
over.
There.
Right up there.
Tight shot. Oh, all right. Looks like you have and you have the old one behind you too, right? Or is that another?
Yeah,
nice.
I have the original Fireboard right under it. So, this is to me a big improvement. I like the design on it because, you get this big screen on it. The other one had a very tiny screen.
Oh, yeah.
And there's controls, so you can scroll through, all the different six different probes, and you can get the graphing on here. But of course, the big thing about Fireboard is this is a, it's a Wi-Fi enabled system. So, you can sit there and bring it up on your PC, and you can look at the graphs, and you can download the data, and you can store your cooks from 5 years ago. As when I got this and I logged into Fireboard, I was sitting there going, oh, wow, it still has like from my Fireboard 1 from how many years ago?
Every cook ever.
Single one of those. Yeah. And I can go through and look at the ones where I really screwed it up. And, it's really, this one is really well built. It's very solid. As a matter of fact, when I was using it, it rained heavily, and that wasn't an issue at all. And, it's got a good solid feel to it. I think it's a dramatic improvement over the first one, although it functions much the same way. I mean, it's not a huge change in its functionality. If you have the first one and you get moved to this one, you're probably not going to notice a big difference. You're going to have to sync this one to your Wi-Fi and add it to your profile. But, it functions the same way, but I do like this big screen. That way, when you're actually out there, it's very obvious. It's very evident, what temperatures you're running at. You can check all the channels all in one glance. And, the Fireboard is a good product. These are good people. They make a nice product. I like that.
Do you run all 6 channels at some point?
I haven't. I will tell you this. This comes with standard with 3 probes.
Wow. Is it 2
So if you
internals
want-
and a pit temp?
Right. Yeah. So it's set up that way. So if you want the extra probes, you're going to go buy those extra. I think they have a deluxe package or something like that. And this is actually the what do they call it? The Fireboard Drive.
Uh-huh.
Is it Drive?
Drive.
Yeah. So and I'm going to play around with plugging in some different blowers I've got to try those out, because supposedly they'll work with virtually any one of them as long as it's got the right port connector. So
I think retail, what are we at? Like $220 or something like that?
Well, for Fireboard 2, it's like $190. For Fireboard 2 Drive, you're looking at $250. If you want to add their fan onto it, that's about $60 more. So it's not an inexpensive unit, but I was just kind of playing around comparing it with because I also recently got the Smoke X4 from ThermalWorks, and I kind of had both of them out and we're trying them and seeing what kind of temperature differences we're looking at, and they're very comparable in what they do. I mean, ThermalWorks has ridiculous accuracy. Is
Smoke X a Wi-Fi enabled product as well, or is that more remote or like radio?
No, it's the radio frequency, so it's just like the original Smoke. So I've been thinking about that. It's like because ThermalWorks has Signal, which is a Wi-Fi enabled version. It does the same 4 channels, so it does what Smoke X does, but it'll do it on your Wi-Fi. And I kind of thinking, the Smoke X is very simple. You can take it out of the box and turn it on. It works. It straight out, it's on and it's measuring temperatures. You don't need to worry about connectivity or anything like that. And the range on this now on the Smoke X is phenomenal. I actually went to ThermalWorks when they released it, 2 weeks before the world lockdown. And they actually, we went out and plugged in, put some food on some grills and plugged it all in with that, and then took the little receiver unit and did the factory tour. And in that whole process, it lost signal twice. And that was because we were basically on the other side of the elevators.
Yeah.
So, they claim that the line of sight range on that's a mile. I can't find a place on my property it won't pick up the signal. So, the range is great on it. It's really simple, but it's not Wi-Fi. So I think, when you're talking about like Fireboard 2, you're putting that against ThermalWorks Signal. Prices are relatively comparable, but with the ThermalWorks, if you want to use a blower, if you want a fan for it, you've got to use theirs. Whereas with this one, if you've already got a fan, you can just plug it into this unit and it'll run it. So, is there
a level of barbecue or griller that should look for a Fireboard type of a product versus, where an entry level might not? Or is this a gadget that you should be getting, whether you're just getting into this or whether you're a seasoned vet, because of all the features and benefits?
Personally, I don't think you need it. I mean, most of the times that I do a cook, I don't run anything. I don't run temperature probes on anything. I just go by feel, and I'll do a instant retemp check somewhere down the road and just monitor it that way. If you're looking to do, I think that with like the Fireboard and its ability to track every cook you're doing, I think if you're doing competitions, if you really want to get that level of precision, if you want to be able to go, okay, here's my stall point, here's where I might want to wrap, or here's where I might want to, spritz or do any of those sort of things, and you can track all that data. So I think from that standpoint, I think as a competition tool, it's a great device, but it is an investment. And I think for the average backyard cook, there are a lot cheaper, maybe less accurate, less functional, but solutions that aren't going to cost you, $200 to $300 at a drop.
Derrick Riches joining me here on the show. DerrickRiches.com is the website. Derrick, are you working on anything at this point that we'll be able to potentially discuss or reveal in July?
Well, I really hope to be. I got kind of sucked into a consulting job that I think I underbid for because it's been eating up way too much of my time.
How do you make that mistake? How does that happen? They're liars, right? That's what you don't want to say?
No, actually, it's not really. It's all on me. I think partly because I've been not traveling and I've been home a lot more. I'm kind of like, I really want something to do.
Happy to work.
So let's just jump on this. And then I started making a lot more out of it than I probably should have.
Yep.
I think they're gonna end up with a lot more than they asked for. But
this is all business
what am I gonna
stuff.
do?
That's right. I mean, it's not like they say when you want to make the big money, you go into consulting, but you always got to watch, right?
Yeah. Go into consulting, but be smart about it. Be very smart about it.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to July. In the meantime, you can catch Derrick's musings over at DerrickRiches.com or on the social media handles. He made a great-looking brisket earlier that he posted. So too bad we can't get any pieces of that. So courtesy of the Fireboard? Courtesy of the Fireboard?
Yeah, I actually had that plugged in while I was running the brisket.
That's great. All right.
So,
well, if you're interested, Derrick gives it positive reviews. As it's a well-built machine. So if you have some cash to burn, check it out. In the meantime, you can check Derrick out right here on this show, the fourth Tuesday of every month on the Barbecue Central Show. Derrick, always appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Greg. Talk to you next month.
All right. See you in July. That is Derrick right there. All right. Let me play a little catch-up. I knew that Fireboard 2 was going to be good. I want to get one now. But I have the Fireboard 1 that I'm just really loving. Oh, it's a conundrum. Let me tell you, by the way, Derrick said that the Fireboard 2 is well water resistant. It rained during his cook when he was using it. Sunday on Father's Day when I was doing reverse sear filet mignons. And by the way, I hate filet, but I love my wife. So, I tried to make her happy when I can. So I did reverse sear filet, and I was using my Fireboard 1, and halfway through, the skies opened up, and that thing got straight down rained on for 10 solid minutes. Didn't lose a beat. So I don't know if that's supposed to be water resistant too, or if I just got lucky. But no issues whatsoever. Very nice. All right, let me talk to you quickly about Pits and Spits. Since 1983, they've been handcrafting smokers and grills in Houston, Texas. They've established themselves as one of the premier brands and high-quality offset smokers. More recently, pellet grills. Pits and Spits sets itself apart by using heavy 7 and 10 gauge steel in every cooker, fully welded construction that you can feel when you use the unit, and 304 stainless steel roll-top lid, and front shelf on every single cooker. Why does it matter? Well, using higher quality materials, Pits and Spits smokers reach and maintain temperatures, allowing you to worry more about the meat than the heat. By providing fully welded smokers, you don't have to worry about grease and smoke leaking out of the barrel or about that grill rattling apart as you move it through the backyard. And by adding 304 stainless steel, you're getting an heirloom quality product that you can pass down to your kids. Now, where some companies focus on being a low-cost provider, Pits and Spits focuses on craftsmanship, using quality materials. Are they cheaper ways to make manufactured products? Yes, but they don't like tack welds, cheap stainless, and electronics that you can't trust. Having in-house manufacturing gives them complete control of their design and standards. That's not something you find from the other guys. Their steel suppliers supply materials to be used in some of the harshest environments, so you know they're going to perform in any and all conditions, and their controllers are made right here in the USA, so they're able to have unimpeded transparency into their programming. Let's put it simply. Pits and Spits has a dealer network across the country, but if there isn't one close to you, give them a call at the shop, 844-650-6250. Whether you're a backyard grill master looking to cook steaks for the family or a competition team smoking 50 racks of ribs, Pits and Spits has a product for you. You can check out their products at www.pitsandspits.com, all spelled out. or see their pits in the wild across the social media at their handle at Pits and Spits. Once again, all spelled out. That's Pits and Spits. All right, we're back to wrap the first hour. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by Fireboard. Monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously. Connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring or connect via Bluetooth. And if you have the Alexa or the Google Assistant in your home, you're in luck because Fireboard is fully integrated with both Fireboard 1 and 2. Find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call 816-945-2232. That's 816-945-2232. All right, thanks again to Derrick Riches from DerrickRiches.com. Joining me this past segment, talking about the Fireboard 2 and his thoughts on that. He doesn't have a Father's Day gift yet, which he may or may not have the next year, 2 or 4 or 10 or whatever. I have an email from another listener. Hey, Greg, have to disagree with you about the meter thermometer. It's great. Juicy chicken after 2 hours, and it warns me 5 minutes before it reaches the temp I've set. No wires, and I can even monitor it when I'm in the rugby club 3 miles away using Wi-Fi. It's crap at monitoring steak, though. Crap? Keep safe. Sean from sunny Lockdown, Wales. How about this guy coming in from across the lake? Pond. England. Wales? Wales is England, right? Thanks for writing in, Sean. I, however, am going to disagree and say that the meter here in the States is a unmitigated disaster. I don't know anything about rugby, but except you have to be really tough to play it, so you can continue to do that. But I was it a couple months ago? Meter actually approached me about potential sponsorship of the show, and I said, hit the bricks, pal, and beat it, because you are going out. There's no way I would bring them on the show. Just so you don't think that I'm some whore dashing it out to every Tom, Dick, and Harry. I told them flatly, get out. There's just no way. For the amount of dumping that we did on that product, and to the no good that I have heard here in the States, I think Dennis Busso probably has one too. Doug has one, but he's never given it anything more than a below mediocre review. Why would I have them as a sponsor on the show? It's patently ridiculous. I like money like the next guy, but I'm not going to be some shill like Rich. We already had one of those. The people that sponsor this show are grade A quality beef, pal. This is the stuff you want to eat. You want a Guru. You want the Fireboard. You want Big Poppa Smokers stuff. The list goes on. Good night. Thank you, Meter. Take your money and go over to the next podcast that's barbecue related. Not this one. All right, we are getting ready to go into the second hour here. The embedded correspondents will be joining me, of course. Yeah. Plenty of stuff to talk about here, not the least of which is, what will a 2020 competition season look like for the balance of the year? American Royal is out. Memphis and May. Sorry. Jack Daniels is out. Not the American. Anyway, we'll make corrections at the top of the second hour. Go ahead and refresh your libations and stick around. We'll be right back.